Jimmy Butler, he's a very interesting player to me.
Just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up. And when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
It makes it almost impossible for their bats to get going or have any confidence in the locker room when you're getting absolutely hosed on the defensive end.
He's like, oh shoot, I don't know where to go with the ball because I haven't been able to think.
It's their defense, man. Minka Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt.
You saw Luka. I'm very intrigued to see how Luka bounces back after his first playoff series.
For next season, there are massive free agents like Giannis. And if Giannis goes to a team like the Heat, like I said before, I expect them to win the championship. 4 teams who could win the AFC in my mind, legitimately. Steelers, Chiefs, Titans, Ravens.
Stay undefeated when they face the mighty Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert and Tony Pollard.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
So happy when the Astros lost because it would definitely be a 2020 thing to have the Astros win a World Series and then you have to hear them.
Now LeBron's a 4-time champion and Anthony Davis gets his first.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was impressed by their game. Braden Point, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov, that was the best line in the playoffs, no doubt.
I think you have 2 established number 1 wide receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and I think you have an emerging star in C.D. Lamb.
Hey everyone, I'm Jared Sandler, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Today we will be talking about the NBA and NHL. We're doing a combined episode because there's a little bit in the NFL, and then MLB it's not happening because the players the players don't really exist because they don't have their faces on MLB.com. They've met like once, and that's very recent, but we don't know if that was just like a brief conversation for like 2 minutes. But in the NBA and NHL, I'll start with the NBA. The league has seen an increase of positive tests in December, and more than 30 players are currently sidelined in health and safety protocols. 3 teams in the NHL, Calgary, Colorado, and Florida, shut down through the next week because of virus cases. About 70 players, 10% of 700 league-wide, are in NHL's COVID-19 protocols, and the number of games postponed this season has climbed to 20. So those are both from 2 articles about the NBA and NHL, talking about like the rise in cases because there is the Omicron variant. I'm not sure. I think it's the Omicron, but that's just speculation. But the thing is, there has been an uptick in like how many players, like 10 players have been knocked out with the Bulls. They were the first team to get it. And then like, I think it was 9 players for like the Timberwolves, or the Timberwolves just got 3 players knocked out for this Mavs game. So we're talking about what is the future like for the NBA and NHL. Austin, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so let's start off with the NHL. Like you said, a lot of teams are affected and have been affected this season. But it's really going to show whether or not they go to the Olympics, what happens here. I thought that they'd already decided they weren't going, but apparently they have not conclusively decided that they're not. I hope they do, obviously, but with these circumstances, I really think they don't. But I don't know what happens here. I'll ask you, do you think they postpone the season? Do you think they not postpone the season? Or do you think they do something in the middle where they like uh, start making teams play in a bubble?
That's a good option. I think if it keeps going, I think you kind of have to postpone because it's becoming unfair to a lot of teams like the Bulls who've been dealing with it for a while, and like the Timberwolves. It's when you have one team who has all their players and then one team it's like mostly G League players. I think there is an unfairness in that. Like, what games do you postpone? What games do you not postpone? So I think maybe you just shut down, and maybe you move the All-Star break and don't do an All-Star game, and like move it there and do a postponement. and that's your postponement, and you don't play an All Star game, because that's way far in the future. But do you think there's an All Star game?
No, I don't. To leave zero confusion about my opinion, I'm just going to say straight up, no, I don't. I think
I
the
agree.
All Star game is going to stay uh, like it did in 20. What was that? What year did we lose?
I think 20. What was the 2019 season?
Yeah,
2019 to 20 season.
yeah. They had the All Star game that year, and then obviously they had to postpone after. But this year, I don't think they keep it. I think they have to move off of it because of the circumstances that they are currently in.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I think maybe move it and just don't do an All Star game. I know the All Star game brings in a lot of money, but the risk, because last year was a lame. Like they put it all into like 1 week, right?
Yeah.
The All Star events and stuff. So maybe do like a 2K thing or something. Maybe that works. And like still select the teams, just don't play the actual game, in my opinion. So you and I agree on that. And then NHL, I there is no like concrete statement that they aren't going, but I don't think they go. And maybe the Olympics steps in and goes, "We can't have y'all because y'all are dealing with stuff." So I think I think there will be a postponement in both the NHL and NBA, just because it seems so rampant, and it I think it could go into unfairness of what games do you postpone and what games do you not postpone. Do you see my point there?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to start asking the question, not just to you, but to everyone who thinks they should play for the NHL. Um, I don't know if the Olympics are going to happen. I don't think there may be a conversation of whether or not they play at the Olympics. If there is no Olympics, again, gets postponed because of the virus, like it was uh, this past time. I don't think the Olympics will be played in 2022.
Okay, let me check. I haven't been keeping up. Is this the Olympics that was postponed?
That
This
was
is
the
the one that was
2020.
postponed.
That was the
Okay, so
2020 Summer Olympics. This is the 2022 Winter Olympics.
okay, so the Summer Olympics. Did they just like cancel, or
No, they
did we?
postponed.
And we just got done with the Summer Olympics, right?
Yes, we did. We did.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they do postpone the Winter Olympics.
So I don't think there may be even a conversation to have with the players and the owners on whether or not they go because there may not even be a decision to be made because there isn't one to have.
That's true. I think it might be the Olympics still has it, but they're like NHL players are not allowed because of the NHL and the COVID upticks. So I think that's interesting. That's you bring up an extra interesting point. I also would like to bring up the point. Maybe they do have the Olympics, but maybe they don't involve the NHL because of COVID. Or
I could see that
yeah,
happening. It just seems like that's been COVID's been an issue all over the world with this Omicron virus, this strain, and I think it could definitely hamper what teams look like during the Olympics in every sport that attends. So I would be surprised if this continues at the rate it has, that if we even have the Olympics.
that yeah, we could see it postponed and see how that happens. So that is definitely a good point you make. I hope like they can figure it out and like it gets back, because it's great having sports back, but it's getting bad to where this affects standings and the postseason, because we're starting to get into the first season. I think the first half of the NBA is important, but in so much more in the second half.
Yeah,
Like that's when
Once
games
Christmas time hits, it's a whole different level
like
of
that's when you
intensity.
have to start thinking about playoffs, and then you add in the play-in tournament, which could save the Mavericks. So in getting into the playoffs and going far,
How
or
long do you think
making
we
it to
go
the first
on
round.
before a postponement is made in either league?
I'm gonna probably say a postponement does not happen till Christmas. after Christmas.
So you think the NBA, who always plays on Christmas, is always like the whole point of
Yes.
the NBA? You think they play on Christmas and then postpone everything?
I think they play on Christmas, and then because the players don't, and I think people are going to go to families, and then a huge wave of like even bigger wave, or maybe a similar wave, just hits all the players that were at home, and they get put into health and safety protocols. But I think it happens after Christmas.
Would you say the same for the NHL?
NHL, I think so. This is another question. Um, I think the NBA is the first team to postpone, and then I think the NHL follows. So maybe the NHL is 2 weeks. So
So
maybe the NHL does where they would go to the Olympics, they don't go, and that's their postponement. So I think maybe like at the earliest 2 weeks for the NHL, and then I guess a week for the NBA for Christmas, for after Christmas.
that would
Do you agree
suck.
with that?
Yeah, I understand your point. I think they'd probably do it basically at the same time. Once one does it, the other one does it. But I could see what you said happen, and that'd be a very sad time because I love watching all of these sports.
Yeah, I have not been able to balance both or all three, but it's good keeping up with them. So that is anything else, or I think we can end this
I'll just
episode.
ask a small question here. How do you think this affects the college football playoff, or does it affect it at all?
That is a good. Oh yeah, and well, that's a little good primer for college football. Maybe it. I almost want to say it doesn't, but I think it's going to affect the college football playoff because players are coming back from break, then they're going to practice. So there has to be some um exposure. But is there a strict COVID-19 policy in college football?
I really don't know what that policy looks like.
Let
So
me see if I can look it up. But that is a good question because I think they have to be affected because
yeah, I would think they would.
it happens after Christmas, right?
It's New Year's Day, or
New
it's New
Year's
Year's
Day.
Eve. New Year's Eve.
Okay.
All the games happen on December 31st, or the first round of the college football playoff, and then the finals are played a week after on that Monday.
Okay. I cannot find anything. Um, but I think I think it has to be affected. But would it be postponing it? I think I don't know. I don't think they get postponed, but I think there will be COVID. Okay, so it seems like 2021 college football COVID protocols, requirements, attendance, forfeits, and more. So this is from an article on ESPN. Um, so that's about fans. So earlier this month, the NCAA recommended that unvaccinated college athletes should be tested weekly for COVID-19, wear masks in most situations, being quarantined if exposed to the virus, while vaccinated individuals can avoid routine testing. So that's one paragraph from this ESPN article. So it doesn't seem that strict compared to NBA and NHL, where they're starting to do or daily testing and then mass on benches and in the locker room. So, do you think they get postponed, or do you? I think there will be an effect, but I don't know if it's postponement. If that makes sense.
Yeah, they're normally pretty biased with this. I don't like saying it, but like if Aiden Hutchinson's out for Michigan, or if one of the quarterbacks for the teams, any of the teams are out, I feel like they'll have a much better chance of, or it will have a much better chance of being postponed versus just a couple starters are out. But I definitely think it'll have an effect. Whether or not it's postponed, I give it a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, so I don't know if college football playoffs is effective, but they may like just cancel a bowl game, like the Cheez It Bowl. Like if something happened between Iowa State or Clemson, they might just go, you know what, cancel. Or the Fiesta Bowl. Or the bowl, the Apple Bowl. There's gotta be an Apple Bowl, right? Or no?
I don't know.
We'll have to have. I would like to have a conversation, but not in this episode, of bowl names and how they should be said. Or because I think, well, yeah. So be on the lookout for that. We'll talk a little bit of college football playoffs in the future, or we'll try to. But that is a good point you bring up, and I do agree. I think there is a little bit of bias, especially with the college football like rankings and choosing, because in the past they've just been awful at it sometimes, in my opinion. Sometimes they've been right, like they did Ohio State at 4, and that's when Zeke was the running back and they won the championship and they beat Oregon. Wasn't that like a controversial thing when they put
Yeah,
Ohio
yeah,
State?
it was, especially because the starting QB for their team, JT Barrett, was out. Well, actually, the starting QB of that team was uh, the guy who became the wide receiver.
Oh, oh, uh,
Uh,
with Browns in Washington.
no, 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 no. He was a wide receiver with the Texans. Uh, uh, why can I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name for some
I was
reason.
thinking of Terrell Pryor.
No, it's not Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me look up roster
Okay.
because they gotta eat at me.
Like, has he been in the league? Well, I guess he has been in the league for a while.
Braxton
Oh,
Miller.
Braxton Miller. Okay, that was not known to me.
He became a wide receiver and played in the NFL for a couple years.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, he was the quarterback for them. Got hurt, and then JT Barrett became the starter because he was the backup. Got hurt, and then Cardell Jones started. All three of those players played at least on a roster in the
Yeah,
NFL, which is pretty
Cardell
impressive.
Jones was on the Bills for a little
Yeah,
bit.
he's
So,
also on the Chargers.
and then Noah Brown is still on the Cowboys. He was a wide receiver though, but um, so I think definitely think there is some bias. Like you can see it with like just how hard it was for Cincinnati to get in, and like it was the final AP poll that they had Cincinnati in as the 4 seed. So there is some bias, so I agree with you on that. But I think that concludes our episode. We combined and then we mixed in a little bit of college football playoffs. Let us know what you think about it in the comments or at our Twitter. And then thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.